So John Boehner, along with other House Republicans, were saying, look, we got a debt limit coming up, right? And they're going to raise the debt limit because they have to. And if you haven't heard of this story before, bless your heart. Thank you for missing it in its entirety because it's painful. Is that, look, every so often, politicians have to raise the debt limit because they already spent the money. They already spent it. The House spent it, the Senate spent it, the President spent it, and they got to say, all right, listen, man, it's basically raising the limit on their credit card. But they already bought the car or the underwear or whatever they did to put it on the credit card. So this is the second limit. Are you going to actually pay your bills, right? So, okay, they got to raise it so they can actually pay their bills. Now everybody knows it. But lately, under President Obama, the Republicans have been holding it hostage, saying, oh, I'm not going to raise it. I'm not going to pay it. Well, then you shouldn't have spent it. You shouldn't have gone to war in Iraq. You shouldn't have given those giant tax cuts to the rich. But you did, right? So now lately, in the beginning, it worked for them. And Democrats negotiated with them, and they bowed their heads, and they gave them all sorts of things that they wanted. Lately, it hasn't been working for them. They did that government shutdown and got their ass handed to them. So now the Democrats insist on a clean call, like clean raising of the debt limit, which means you're not going to attach anything to it. It's not, well, I'll raise the debt limit, but if you do this or if you do that, right? Nothing. It's got to be clean. So how's it going to go? Well, this time around, they said, the Republicans said, no. You're either going to approve the Keystone provision or you're going to get rid of these insurance corridors. Don't get into what that is, but it's a part of the health insurance bill that's actually not a very good part. So they might be able to get out in separate legislation, but they can't attach it to this because the Democrats and the president insist on a clean raising of the limit. They tried for other things. They tried to even get to the point where they were trying to give more military benefits to the people who served in the military, right? They had cut their benefits a little bit. They were going to restore that. I mean, that's really popular. Both parties agree to that, obviously, right? And the Democrats held firm and said, no, we can handle that in other bills, and I'll agree with you on those issues, but we're not going to handle it in this. So yesterday, we got the first quote out, and it said, from a Republican source, quote, we will be bringing up a clean debt limit bill tomorrow. In other words, bow your head. And they did. You want to see it in action? Oh, this is pretty. Here's John Boehner.
You've all known that our members are not crazy about voting to increase the debt ceiling. Our members are also very upset with the president. He won't negotiate. He won't deal with our long-term spending problems without us raising taxes. Won't even sit down and discuss these issues. He's the one driving up the debt. And the question they're asking is, well, why should I deal with his debt limit? And so the fact is, we'll let the Democrats put the votes up. We'll put a minimum number of votes up to get it passed.
So there's three things I love about that. Number one, yes, you have conceded. If you didn't notice it, he was carrying a white flag, okay? So it confessed to what it is, okay? Let's just call it what it is, right? Number two, he says, oh, no, Obama's the one driving up the debt. Wrong. Not remotely true. I showed it last week. The reality is Obama got handed a $1.2 trillion deficit by Bush and the Republicans. And he's now got it down to about $600 billion, and next year is projected to be over $500 billion, meaning under half of what Bush and the Republicans handed him. So you're absolutely wrong. It was your party, through the Iraq War, through all those tax cuts for the rich, that drove that deficit up. Obama's been bringing it down. He's got a lot of problems, but that isn't one of them. That's your problem, John Boehner. And the third thing he says there is like, oh yeah, well, so what? Maybe we'll get 20 to 40 Republican votes on this, but the Democrats will have to largely pass it, and then it's on them. Ooh. Oh, okay. That's supposed to be some sort of threat. There'll be political price to pay for raising the debt limit. No, there won't. Every rational human being understands that you got to pay the debts that you accrued under Republican presidents and Republican Congresses, right? So it is what it is. You think you're being a tough guy, you're not. Okay, you look like a fool. So let's let Mr. Clean keep going.
Oh, understand. It's the president driving up the debt, and the president wanting to do nothing about the debt that's occurring, will not engage in our long-term spending problem, and so let his party give him the debt ceiling increase that he wants. Listen, this is a lost opportunity for America.
For this, is this a recognition that post-government shutdown you don't have the political leverage to fight the president on this?
No, it's the fact that we don't have 218 votes. And when you don't have 218 votes, you have nothing. We've seen that before, and we'll see it again.
So two things about that one. Number one, about the debt, if I hear that one more time, here's what I would do if I was the president. I'd call a press conference right afterwards. Now, look, you already kicked his ass, right? I'd come in and say, okay, listen, you talk about the debt one more time. Here's my suggestion to you. The very next sentence you say about the debt, I'm going to propose a tax increase on the top bracket from, in the 38, 39% range all the way up to 50 or maybe even 60%. And I'm going to take that extra money and I'm going to wipe out the deficit entirely. We're going to have a surplus. You want it? I mean, you tell me you're against the deficit, right? I'll wipe it out tomorrow. Say it one more time. Say I drove up the debt one more time. Right? God, wouldn't it be great if we had a president like that? Okay, point number two is that talk about 218 votes. I mean, look, I'm your political decoder here, right? That's my job to interpret what they're saying and to tell you what it in fact he's saying. That 218 votes is a shot at his own party. Because all those three proposals that they had that I explained to you earlier, he brought up to his own committee, his own conference. He went in front of the fellow House Republicans, no Democrats there, and said, all right, how about this, this, and this? And the obstinate right-wing Republicans that are even to the right of Boehner were like, no, oh no, I don't want to vote on the debt limit at all. I never want to raise it. But what if we get something in return? Oh, I don't care, no. He couldn't get to 218, which is what you need to pass the bill on their own, right? That's what you need to pass a period. And they have 218 Republicans, but they can't get them all to vote for this. So, well, if you're not going to vote for anything, how can you expect to win? They're so self-defeating, and that's a rare point where I have a little bit of sympathy for John Boehner. Because he's basically saying, what am I supposed to do with these right-wing knuckleheads who won't let me vote on anything? So then we're going to lose. We're going to have to give the Democrats what they want. He's right about that. Now, of course, since he's right about that, here come more knuckleheads. The Senate Conservatives Fund wants to run primaries, etc., so that they take the incredibly right-wing senators and House members now and run primaries to the right of them. Okay, so they're upset at John Boehner, and they send this letter out. They say, Republicans are giving up because they know that winning is impossible when their leaders are determined to lose. These leaders have telegraphed weakness to the Democrats and sabotaged conservative efforts so many times that Republicans now have no leverage. There's only one solution. Yeah, okay, so in this alternate reality that they live in, that Republicans have been too soft, and the Democrats are steamrolling them. But you guys shut the government down. You guys are the ones who don't want to raise the debt limit. You guys are the ones that did the record amount of filibusters. You guys are the one that did the record amount of low bills, the record obstruction. You've done all of this, and you won't give an inch on any issue. But no. In the insane right-wing world, on planet Uranus, they're totally right. The Boehner and the Republican Party's been too soft, and Obama's a he-man, and he just gets everything he wants. Facts be damned. So what's their one solution? John Boehner must be replaced as Speaker of the House. Yes, of course. And in his place, we will put in Jabba the Hutt. And then he will really regulate. And if Obama tries to do anything that the Republicans disagree with 1%, Jabba will eat him. I mean, how much further right can you go? And to what effect? And finally, Matt Hoskins adds, unless we install a new leader who will actually go on offense, Democrats will never fear us, and we will never have any leverage. Now, remember that John Boehner, after one of the negotiations where he mauled President Obama in the first term, this is when the Democrats were just littered and reeked of weakness, right? John Boehner came out and bragged afterwards that he got 98% of what he wanted. And he was right about that. He did. But these guys, maybe these right-wing Republicans are like my dad. Their expectations are a little too high. I remember when I got 98% on a test once, and my dad said, where did the other 2% go? Okay, and that's basically what they're telling John Boehner. Since you only got 98% of our priorities, we got to replace you with a guy who's to the right of you, who's never going to give in on a single issue. You think you can run a country like that? But that's the thing. They don't want to run the country. They don't want to pass any laws. They don't want to help the American citizens. All they want to do is drown the government in a bathtub, as one of the famous Republican quotes go from Grover Norquist. So I guess if you want to end the government entirely, that's the direction you would go in. The only reason they ever win any elections is because they have an overwhelming amount of money backing them up. If they didn't have that, these guys, these clowns would get mauled. They'd be driven from Congress within maximum 2 elections. It might be in just 1 election.